Good morning, everyone. Today we are checking out part 2, aka part 10 of the Seminoles Beast storyline, with part 2 of the Beast Brawl with the Demon. Let's hop in and see how this poker battle keeps going on. Alright,
I
who's
felt
next?
as though I could barely keep up with the battle happening before me. Even as I could see through my summon, Wellerman's eyes, I could hardly make out Toralai's rapidly moving demon, Hunter, in its Flathium form, as she called it. I'd hardly gotten a look at the speedy draconic raven demon before it started darting through the air, moving in for strikes on Wellerman from every angle. Wellerman was still in his enhanced form, thanks to the Kuznets stone, but even with that, he was having a hard time getting his bearings among all the imperceptibly fast hits. He started blindly firing beams of freezing water from his mouth and cannons in every direction, just trying to hit the demon on sheer luck. But it was no use. He was soon hit from behind hard enough to start falling towards the forest below. I did notice, though, as he was falling, he started building up another ball of mystic water on the end of his tail. He got nearly to the ground, below the tree line, and pulled up, swooping quickly through the trees, barely evading crashing into hundreds of trunks and branches as he moved. Through the rush of wind, we both still managed to hear the crack of branches just behind. Wellerman immediately flared out his wings to halt, spun around, and hurled the water off his tail, at a blue and black blur moving in behind him. The figure tried to dodge around it, but one wing was struck, and it started to spiral through the air, finally slowing enough to be seen. Wellerman snatched his claws onto the creature, spinning through the air with it, then bit down into its shoulder. The raven cried out, but immediately flapped both its wings with enough force to knock over the trees around it and send it rocketing up into the air, with Wellerman still clinging to it.
Wow,
it then started to spin as it flew higher and higher and higher. Wellerman shot more water at its head and wings, but it wasn't enough to slow it down, and soon, both Wellerman and I were getting dizzy from the spinning. Soon, the demon reached the upper atmosphere. The cold didn't bother Wellerman, but the air getting thinner and thinner soon made his consciousness start to slip. Because of our link, despite me being back down on the cliff ledge below, I was on the brink of passing out as well. Wellerman tried to let go, but as soon as he did, Hunter snatched my dragon by the tail with its talons and kept pulling him higher. Toralai's speed demon clearly didn't need to breathe, as it just kept moving farther up, and Wellerman couldn't do anything to stop it. I knew he'd be angry at me for this, but if I passed out and he did as well, there'd be no way to save him from the fall. As mighty as Wellerman had proven himself to be, defeating two of an Archon Demon's generals in one day had still been too tall of an order. Finally, I said, "I release my summon. You may return from whence you came, Wellerman." My link to Wellerman suddenly vanished as my dragon appeared in a swirl of light next to me once more, now unaltered by the Kuznets stone's upgrade. He collapsed on the cliff ledge, breathing deeply, but staying down. "All right, Toralai, you and Hunter win this round," I said. She bowed overly enthusiastically as her demon general swooped down and abruptly stopped beside her cliff, sending another wave of wind in our direction. Some of Benny's flying cameras shot past me, unable to withstand the gust. "Hey, McFantarell, easy on the breezy, would ya? I'd us all to enjoy the show when my cameras can't watch the show," Benny called up from the crowd of pirates, slayers of cursed predators, and Sharp Gang members watching below. "Well, Taran, please tell me you got something that can handle Hunter's speed. Would be a pretty boring display for the fight to end here, especially considering who I've got waiting at the end of my roster." Toralai said smugly and mysteriously. "You've only taken out one of my team, Toralai. Don't count us out yet."
And I don't mean who she has at the end of her roster. I mean, who does he have that can actually match up with the speed?
"I call upon the aid of Ontet. Summon forth, great beast."
Ooh.
Golden light swirled around me, and on my opposite side to where Wellerman lay, my psychic golden pharaoh ant appeared, along with a familiar friend attached to its head. "Hey there, Toralai, I'm Charlie. We haven't really met one-on-one yet, but I'm a biomech usually attached to Kayla, but we found out I can help upgrade Ontet a fair amount too. So Taran decided that it probably doesn't count as cheating to let me help out in this fight like I did when Ontet was fighting against Tarsa's slime thing. So I'm part of this battle now too." Toralai
So hyper. I love it.
chuckled. "Fine with me, but talking fast won't mean much if you can't move fast." Hunter flapped once and darted in a blur towards Ontet and Charlie. Before it could reach them, Ontette activated her abilities and tore a chunk of rock off the mountain below us. She raised it between her and Hunter, and the demon crashed right into it. It was slowed, but still managed to tackle through and smash into Ontette, knocking her off the cliff. Ontette pulled off another chunk of rock and levitated it under her. She landed on it and rode it down towards the forest, with Hunter quickly darting in behind. I didn't want to wait to upgrade Ontette further, so I said, I call upon the power of the Kuznets stone. Elevate the great beast Ontette.
Oh, so this Mega Stone can actually be used on multiple. It's not linked to just one. Love it!
I waited a moment, but nothing happened. I looked at the glove Vasilia had given me, unsure of why it wasn't working.
Wait.
I faintly heard her yell up from the crowd. The device may require, as you say, a buffer period, Theron. You may not be able to use on two creatures in a row. That was unfortunate, but upon her saying that, I could sense the power level emanating from it. It did seem to be growing. I'd likely be able to use it again before the end of this battle, but I'd have to be smart about when.
He's gonna end up using on the on the Gojira lift. That's the name.
Tet would have to do without. At least she had Charlie to help her. Hunter was just about to strike on Tet and Charlie from behind when my Pharaoh Ant turned her levitating stone platform so the bird would crash into it. Ontette tried to latch onto the bird with her psychic power to hurl it into the ground. Unfortunately, as I suspected, like Tarsa and her own demonically enhanced beast, Ontette's abilities didn't work directly on this demon general's body. Once again, the demon smashed through the stone and that sent Ontette spinning towards the ground. But luckily, Charlie fired a bolt of blue energy from her head that helped control her spin and let her aim right for the ground. She started lashing her front legs and mandibles in front of her. As soon as she hit the dirt, she dove and dug right through it, into the ground below.
That's
the
how you
blur
do
of the
it.
bird swooped low over the ground for a while, waiting for Ontette to emerge. But my beast stayed buried. Eventually, the bird slowed. Finally, it landed on the ground, listening and pecking its mighty beak into the dirt. It reared back its head and cawed at the ground. Its sound waves rumbled through the dirt, making plumes of it burst aside like parting waves. It shot more and more, trying to dig up Ontette, but having little luck. Finally, Ontette struck back. Using her psychic abilities, enhanced by Charlie, she raised all the kicked up dirt around Hunter into the air, making it spiral around the creature in a vortex. Before the bird beast could dart out of the swell, Ontette had all of the dirt collapse in on the bird and stick to it. The demon tried to flap the debris off, but Ontette held it tight to the creature, making her then able to psychically control the creature's movements. Before the beast could flap its wings, Ontette smashed it into a tree, then another and another. Hunter managed to flap its wings enough to spring out of the forest, but far slower than usual thanks to Ontette's psychically controlled dirt. Ontette yanked the creature back down as she sprung up out of the ground and managed to land on Hunter's back, biting into its head with her mandibles. The demon tried to shoot a cannon of sound at her, but she kept its head aimed away. However, this demon didn't need to aim to hit its target. Some of the sound waves then solidified into rings and spun back around towards Ontette and Hunter.
What?
My Pharaoh Ant used her bite and psychic abilities to jerk the bird back down towards the ground, out of the path of the sound. The bird crashed down into the dirt. Ontette then pulled over another chunk of rock, leapt off
like it used a boom bust or something
off Hunter's back and slammed the stones onto the bird, pinning it. At the same time, she psychically pulled dirt around its beak and held it with all her might, keeping the beast's maw shut. Ontette held this grip as the demon struggled to pick itself back up. My whole body felt tensed as Ontette kept this going, and any second I thought she'd have to release the hold. But she managed to go as long as she needed to. After a couple minutes of this, Toralei finally said, all right, Hunter yields. He could probably get out of there if he needed to, but we relent. That was impressive. Would have thought a bug would beat a bird.
A good
Ontette lifted
deal.
the rock off Hunter as the bird shrank back down to its resting size. It flew up to Toralei, and she caught it in one hand. All right then, if you're going with a psychic beastie, then perhaps I'll go for something a little more phantasmal. She let out three sharp whistles. From her hand...
She's actually right. Ghost types cannot be... No, wait. No, it's dog types that cannot be affected by ghosts. Ghost types can be affected by psychic. I think. Let me actually double check that. One double check later, it turns out I was wrong. Psychic type of Pokemon are weak to bug, ghost, and dog type. By going with a phantasmal choice, C's actually taking the upper hand.
And Hunter cawed once more. The sound waves this time formed into purple rings that merged together into a portal, inside which was an empty black void. Through it came a floating purple and green amphibian-like beast. It hovered through the air and landed behind Toralei. Its body was slimy looking, but parts of its flesh also billowed off it into clumps of wet smoke, and beneath its skin I could faintly make out a skeletal structure, though that too seemed to shift and transform.
Go on, Terran. Let's see what your little insect can do to Fantibia.
I wasn't sure how yet, but knew this would be a challenge. Fantibia leapt off the cliff ledge and soared down to the ground near Ontet. It landed with incredible grace, then sprang up again, headed right for my beast. Ontet hurled the stone, once pinning Hunter, towards the creature, but it just phased right through Fantibia's body. The creature got close, spun around, and slammed its tail into Ontet's head, smashing it into the dirt. She quickly dug down into the ground again to get away. Fantibia just watched with all four of its eyes. It grinned eerily. Then, its body sunk into the ground. It arose again a few seconds later, dragging Ontet by the leg, and hurled my beast up into the air. Ontet spun around and pulled the stone to her again, to land on in midair. Charlie fired at the creature with the cannon on Ontet's head, but every shot just went right through the demon. Fantibia just watched and waited, clearly taunting me and my summon. It rocked its body back and forth as if it were bored. Charlie started shifting into different types of cannons, shooting fire, then bullets, eventually landing on a sonic cannon. It shot a burst of that at Fantibia, and the creature's body started to writhe. It stopped grinning at my beast and sneered. It sprang off the ground towards Ontet. She swooped herself aside, but the creature stopped in midair, then sprung its legs off nothing, launching it towards its target again. It caught her platform and tore it down, then grabbed Ontet's head. Charlie kept shooting his sound cannon at the creature, and its body kept writhing, but...
This green one must be, the one he's talking about. The phantasmal one.
It wasn't enough to shake it loose. The beast pulled Ontet to the ground, then dragged her over to the base of Toralei's cliff, phasing its and Ontet's body through the trees. Finally, it stuck Ontet's head into the stone, and just looked up at me and growled. Toralei called over.
In case you don't speak, angry phantom amphibian demon, what Fantibia's saying is, if you don't surrender, she'll unphase your summon's head inside the rock and kill it instantly. So, you're sort of out of options with this matchup.
I quickly said, I release my summon, you may return from whence you came, Ontet. That was that for my Pharaoh Ant. But at least Charlie had given me a clear sign of who to call on next. Wellerman wasn't my only music-loving monster. I made my summon call, and this time, the creature that appeared, summoned on the ground next to the cliff, was by far my biggest. Its body was tall enough that its titanic head towered over me, even with it standing in the forest below. The musical rotund panda kaiju, Panchakuda, was here to defeat Toralei's phantom. Her monster barely stood up to the knee of my titan, though its size wasn't the reason I'd called on it. Panchakuda started drumming on its stomach, playing a thundering beat that rang out for miles, shaking the ground all around.
Now this is actually kind of interesting, considering that panda would be a normal type. But even with sound effective moves, those would still also be, normal type. So for them to have an effect against the ghost type heal is still mighty impressive.
Around us. Fantibia shrieked furiously as its body shook and quaked at the sound, far more than from Charlie's sound cannon. I thought this would be an easy battle, and unfortunately that was true, but not for us. The demon general dropped back into the ground and vanished. Seconds later, it sprang up beneath Panchakuda and leapt right inside my titan's body. Suddenly, Panchakuda stopped drumming. I could hear a horrible sloshing sound inside my brain, as if the creature was in my head looking around. Soon after, I heard an eerie chuckling sound. The next thing I knew, my mountainous perch was rocked, as Panchakuda smashed its own head into the wall beneath me. It did so again and again, then whipped its head up and smashed its face into the dirt. It tried to lift itself up, but soon lost control of all its limbs, and was forced to tuck its arms behind its back, staying pinned face first into the dirt. It started just bashing its head into the ground over and over and over, and I couldn't stand to watch it any longer.
The ghost type used possession and is also used in the Korean punishment.
Within a minute of calling upon the Titanic beast, I released my summon. Choosing it so hastily had been a grave mistake. I kept forgetting that even if we weren't fighting to the death, I was still facing off against an Archon demon and her generals.
Oh yeah.
Ventibia was fierce, but even if I beat it, Toralei still had 2 more monsters waiting and had alluded to something particularly dangerous saved for last. Thankfully, my 2 remaining summons were quite formidable themselves. One may even be enough to dissuade all her creatures from fighting, and make for 3 easy surrenders from her side. Toralei's amphibious phantom rejoined her on the cliff, rocking back and forth once again. I called over, "I am suddenly much more appreciative of the fact that you have not used these demons to attack any worlds with sentient life. They could certainly have done significant harm."
Yes, well, I may not be as destruction happy as my siblings, but I am still an Archon after all. I made these creatures to take on full armies, so don't go thinking they're going to be so easily beaten.
Understood. Perhaps
Great,
fighting
though.
isn't even the
That's
correct
cool.
tactic for this one. I call upon the aid of Ticleaz. Summon forth, great beast. I had been very eager to call
tickle
upon this
monster,
creature
the
as
slime.
just being in its presence made me happier and more relaxed. Its aura emanates peace and joy. In a swirl of orange light, the most jovial and anomalous slime creature in my world appeared. Having my consciousness merged with it made me feel as though my whole body and mind were floating in a sea of soothing light. I practically wanted to end the fight there and just relax in the embrace of this creature, but
Who wouldn't?
knew we had a crowd eagerly watching for more. Toralei smirked.
I was wondering where you ran off to when we were at the Slayers of Cursed Predators BS. Figured you'd have at least one of their beasts on your roster, though I wouldn't have guessed it'd be a variant of the Tickle Monster. They've certainly got things a lot more fierce than that.
I grinned confidently. Even if it isn't known for fighting, I wouldn't discount its abilities so easily. I think it may now be you who is underestimating my beasts. The orange slime creature, with a cartoonishly simple face, waved at our opponents. Toralei's Phantibia
So
leapt from its
cute.
perch towards us. It landed right next to me and stared into the face of Ticleaz. My creature just blinked, then thrust its arms to the side, as if gesturing for a hug.
It's gonna
Phantibia
hug.
swiped its arm at my creature's head. That did knock it sideways, but not off its feet, and Ticleaz just sprung back up, still smiling, and once again gestured for a hug.
Hug me!
Toralei's monster looked at the hand that it had just used to strike my creature, and started to grin, though this time far less menacingly than before. It swatted my beast again, to the same result, though Phantibia seemed to start chuckling gleefully. It started batting my creature back and forth, laughing as it did. Even Ticleaz was laughing. The swipes weren't harming it in the slightest. Eventually,
I'm
Toralei
liking
called
this.
over.
All right, Phantibia, you've had your fun. This is a fight, remember?
The creature stopped swiping, chuckled one more time, then nodded. It phased its body inside of Ticleaz. I felt it taking control of the creature's limbs and raised one arm, but then stopped. Inside my slime beast, Phantibia's shoulders slumped, and it just started laughing again, this time more uncontrollably. Soon, I started laughing, and many in the crowd did too. The demon's laugh became infectious, and even Toralei couldn't help but laugh,
Stop.
despite clearly having lost this round. Eventually, Phantibia walked back out of Ticleaz's body and leapt back over to Toralei's ledge. It shook its head at her with a grin as if to say, "Yeah, I'm not fighting that thing." Then it lay back on the ground behind her and began napping, still bearing a pleasant grin. Toralei looked back at me.
Well, I'll be honest, I did not expect that.
I
A lot of
smiled
people
proudly
wouldn't.
at my latest summon.
It's the Tickle Monster. It can't be harmed, it can't do harm, but damn gonna make you smile and laugh.
Ticleaz can bring peace and laughter to any beast or being it touches. It's hard to fight something that induces so much joy.
Right, I kinda want to see what that thing could do to Eldrorok. But I'd also worry he could eviscerate
the
it
red
from
orc.
afar. Anyway, down to 2 left each, are we? As much as I want to see Ticleaz take on my final beast, I don't think it'll make it that far.
She gave 2 short whistles, then 1 long one. Hunter had leapt back into the air near her and called forth her next beast. 5 yellow and blue sound rings solidified, spun through the air
Ooh.
and came together, then separated, each revealing a limb of her next monster. A furry, large-nosed ape demon, standing nearly 70 feet tall,
Okay, for a second I thought she was about to just straight up call it Exodia.
with paws formed from ice. It clung to the side of her cliff and looked at Toralei as if for instruction. She pointed 2 fingers at Tikleos, then tapped a finger to her forehead. She then tapped a middle finger to the back of her other palm while shaking her head. The demon nodded and shrieked like the massive primate it was.
Oh, it's of course a King Kong. Okay. Something about defeat it or something, but don't touch it maybe? I don't know.
It leapt off the cliff and landed in the forest below, the same space that had been cleared by Helskarot earlier. It pointed up at Tikleos, then slammed its fist into the ground twice, as if summoning it down to the ground. Tikleos happily obliged, and its body wriggled as it soared down to the ground. When it hit the ground, its body condensed into a big ball of goo, then sprung back up to stand in its common bipedal form.
Love it.
It waved joyfully at the frigid monkey that stood over twice its height. The primate waved back, but then thrust its head forward, and from its forehead shot a beam of ice. The ice struck Tikleos, and instantly its entire body froze as a waving, smiling statue. The primate laughed and slammed its fists against its chest proudly. But little did it realize my creature was unfazed. Tikleos' body shrunk in on itself inside the ice around it, then thrust its arms out, along with 4 tendrils from its side, smashing all the ice away. It then started waddling with a smile towards the primate, arms spread wide for a hug. The creature shrieked and leapt up away from it, clinging to the side of Toralei's cliff again. It fired another beam of ice, and this time, a spiral of sparking electricity fired with it. My beast was struck, and its body was simultaneously electrocuted and frozen again. But, like before, it quickly freed itself, just enjoying the sensation of the shock. It almost felt like getting a massage. The tendrils on my creature's side grew to hundreds of feet long and sprang towards the frigid primate.
Nice.
It leapt off the wall to get away and slammed its paws to the ground. Sparking spikes of ice burst from the dirt in a wave away from it, towards my creature. Tikleos just leapt over this and kept coming towards the primate. It kept leaping away and trying to fire from
I could totally see this thing just skipping with every single step.
a distance, but Tikleos just kept coming. The primate was very evasive and quick, but Tikleos was insistent on making it, ironically, chill out. Eventually, one of its tendrils latched onto the beast's arm, and that was that. The creature instantly started laughing and ceased its assault. It let Tikleos get closer and allowed my creature to leap onto its back. Toralei tried to talk her monster into fighting again, but it ignored her and continued to roll around, playing with my own summon.
Oh,
All right. I guess I should have seen that coming. In my defense, Dapliane isn't one to let himself get hit very often. But at least this means I get to bring out my closing number. And you'll get to be reacquainted with an old friend, Taran.
Toralei said, flashing her eyes menacingly.
Uh-oh.
Despite my connection to Tikleos causing consistent waves of joy, a cold chill ran through me as Toralei said that. What do you mean reacquainted? Have I come across one of your summons before? She chuckled and let out 3 whistles, with the last one being the slowest. Hunter cawed one last time, and a single black and green dripping ring burst from its mouth that grew and grew as it raised above her. It split in 2 and moved in opposite directions, with a draconic beast being revealed from within.
I think it's only fitting to have these 2 battle, seeing as how the slayers of cursed predators have previously had both of them contained. Albeit my monster in slightly heavier chains.
When I realized what I was seeing appear in the skies above, I nearly wanted to retreat. I looked down to Kayla and Dresden in the watching crowd. They were far from me, but I could tell they too were horrified. The other slayers were as well.
It's you.
Dresden muttered something that I'm quite sure was along the lines of, "Well, I suppose it is referred to as unkillable for a reason," letting out a horrible...
But wait, I thought it was dead in this world. Unless he somehow got it from another world. Though there is still a chance he somehow got it from this world, but I'm not sure.
Roar was the monstrous, unkillable dragon. It crashed down onto the ledge behind Toralei, barely having enough room on the cliff. It stared at me with a leer of pure hate.
"Hello, summoner. clear has your face been in my mind since the day you and your allies slayed me. I have long awaited this reunion.
With my whole body trembling, I looked from it to Toralei. She was far too eager to see my shock and dismay.
What, hadn't you wondered why I was so certain I would win this little brawl? Unless you made the Reaper one of your summons, I figured you'd have no monsters waiting for me that could kill the unkillable.
Oh, that is not good at all, but damn, does that mean that the final pod next week is gonna be badass. Alright.
Yeah, so it turns out we needed another episode to finish off the Summoner's Beast because the script for the finale was way too long, and I promise you, you are going to want a drawing of what comes next. Which I would not have had time to do to add to this episode. So we'll be finishing the Summoner's Beasts on Friday. Also, reminder, in case you didn't see it in the last episode of the community post, the Vigilance book release has been delayed. I promise I'll keep you all updated. I'm getting a professional proofreader to go through it, and I will get it out as soon as I can. Anyway, besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave you with today is a message I read this week from someone named Sahil Bloom, who said your entire life will change as soon as you stop looking for more information and start acting on the information that you already have.
Ooh, that's
I've
a
said
good
things
one.
like this before in ending notes, but I think it's a good reminder that learning information on a topic that you want to get good at is important. It's an important step. But you won't actually start making significant progress to becoming great at that thing until you start applying the information that you've learned. That's when you're going to start making real headway towards your goals. I think seeking out new information while you're in the application process is still a good thing. But again, the real progress comes from when you start applying the information you have. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday, where we actually... I promise we'll be finishing the Summoner's Beasts.
It's alright.
Monday we'll finally start the Trismegistus Academy series. Though the first academy we'll be visiting won't actually be the Trismegistus Academy. Anyway, I'll see you all there. Goodbye.
Alright, that means next week we'll be finishing off this and starting off the next cities in the same week. Now that's going to be good. Alright everyone, well that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.